Donald Trump has done it again. A $100,000 annual fee slapped on every H-1B visa. Tech workers are crying foul, Twitter is raging, and Indian WhatsApp groups are buzzing like a stock market crash ticker. But here's the truth. America's angst against Indian migrants is not new. It's more than a century old. And, if we're brutally honest, Indians haven't exactly helped their case. Punjabis in California. Back in the early 1900s, shiploads of Punjabi Sikh laborers disembarked on the West Coast, often through San Francisco. Most were peasants from rural Punjab, hardened by farm work, and they quickly found jobs on the fields of California's Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys. To local farmers, they were a godsend. Strong, tireless, and willing to do back-breaking jobs no one else wanted. But America wasn't sure what to do with them. They wore turbans, spoke Punjabi, and huddled together in bunkhouses after long days in the fields. They rarely intermingled, except sometimes marrying Mexican women because U.S. anti-miscegenation laws forbade them from marrying whites. To their credit, they built vibrant mini-communities with gurdwaras and shared kitchens. But to locals, it looked like clannishness, a foreign colony growing inside America. Resentment brewed. Newspapers railed against the Hindu menace, even though most were Sikh. Politicians claimed these men worked too hard, lived too frugally, and saved too much, making it impossible for white farmers to compete. The pressure boiled into legislation. California's alien land laws of 1913 and 1920 forbade aliens ineligible for citizenship from owning farmland or even leasing it long-term. Since Asians were legally barred from naturalizing, Punjabis were directly hit. Many had to register land in the names of their American-born children or white friends, a loophole that only fueled more hostility. Then came the knockout punch, the Immigration Act of 1917, better known as the Asiatic Barred Zone Act. With one stroke, almost all Asian immigration, including from India, was banned. The door slammed shut, trapping the early Punjabi migrants in a kind of limbo. They could work, but not belong. They could toil, but not own. They were visible, but unwelcome. And if you squint hard enough, you can see history rhyming. A century later, Trump's $100,000 H-1B levy sends the same message in different packaging. You may work for us, but don't expect to belong. But here's the question worth asking. Did America become weaker after barring those hardworking farmers? No! In the decades that followed, America mechanized agriculture, industrialized its economy, and by the mid-20th century had risen to become the world's undisputed superpower. The absence of Punjabi farmhands didn't cripple the U.S. If anything, it accelerated innovation and consolidation, which is why Trump's critics, who argue that the $100,000 H-1B levy will make America lose its tech edge, might need to look at history. America has always found a way to grow stronger, with or without immigrant labor. The Patel Motel Empire. The Asiatic Barred Zone Act of 1917 slammed the door on Indian immigration, and for decades it stayed that way. It was only partially reversed later. And then came the landmark Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the Hart-Celler Act. For the first time, U.S. immigration law favored skilled migrants and family reunification. That tiny clause would change the face of small-town America, because when the doors opened, it was Gujaratis, especially the Patel community, who marched through. They didn't just arrive, they took over an entire industry. Motels, gas stations, convenience stores, you name it. Within a generation, Patel had become almost synonymous with motel. They weren't the largest group of Indian immigrants, but they were certainly the most visible. It's the classic rags to riches story, a community that rose from scratch, built wealth, and became a fixture of the American landscape. But along with admiration came muttering. In local diners and city councils, the whisper was always the same. They only hire their own. And here's the irony. Decades later, even a right-wing, xenophobic American administration trusted a second-generation Patel, Kash Patel, with one of the most powerful national security positions in government. From motel lobbies to the Pentagon, the Patel network knows how to get you a room. But the story doesn't end with Kash. While enjoying the freedoms and protections of America, many in the Patel diaspora staunchly cheer a right-wing government in India that cracks down on minorities and muzzles dissent. In the U.S., they demand equality, rights, and legal safeguards. In India, they applaud when the same rights are stripped from others. It's a hypocracy as glaring as a neon vacancy sign. The IT tsunami. Young, educated, unstoppable. By the 1980s and 1990s, the scene shifted. This was Silicon Valley's turn. The demand for software engineers, programmers, and systems administrators was exploding. And India, with its massive pool of young, educated graduates, was more than ready. In 1980, there were only about 209,600 Indian immigrants in the U.S. By 1990 to 1999, over 350,000 Indians migrated, nearly double the 1980s figures. The Indian immigrant population in the U.S. today stands at about 5.2 million, making it one of the largest Asian origin communities in America. What enabled this wave was partly policy. In 1990, Congress created the H-1B visa to plug gaps in specialty occupations, mainly tech. This became the golden ticket for Indian engineers. Armed with IIT degrees and B.Tech diplomas from India's engineering boom, they filled the cubicles of Silicon Valley. They worked longer hours for less pay, thrilling American companies but enraging American workers who saw their wages flattened. And where did these engineers come from? Not from every corner of India, but largely from states with strong engineering education pipelines. Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, thanks to a mushrooming of private engineering colleges in Hyderabad, Warangal, and beyond. Tamil Nadu, with powerhouse institutions like Anna University and a culture of producing software engineers en masse. Karnataka, anchored by Bangalore's tech ecosystem, which became the Silicon Valley of India. Maharashtra, feeding talent from Mumbai and Pune's engineering hubs. Kerala, whose educated English-speaking youth eagerly sought IT opportunities abroad. This concentration meant that certain American suburbs, from New Jersey to Fremont, California, became virtual replicas of South Indian towns, with Telugu, Tamil, and Malayalam spoken in malls, temples, and even office corridors, and the same patterns carried into the workplace. In offices, whispers grew. Indians formed tight cliques, recommended only fellow Indians, and slowly captured entire departments. To outsiders, it often felt less like integration and more like replication. Little India's inside corporate America. So when Trump slaps a $100,000 levy on H-1B visas, it's not just economics. It's history repeating itself. From Punjabi farmers a century ago, to Patel motel owners in the 70s, to IT engineers of the 90s, every wave of Indian migrants brought prosperity, but also irritation. And today, that irritation is framed as Americans losing jobs to cheap foreign labor. For decades, companies have loved hiring Indian workers who will put in longer hours for lower pay. But for ordinary U.S. workers, that has meant stagnating wages and fewer opportunities. Trump knows this anger well. He rode into the White House in 2016 promising to bring back American jobs. The new $100,000 visa fee is his way of showing that, even in his second term, he hasn't forgotten that pledge. And here at Whispering Peepal, we'll keep peeling back these layers of history, hypocrisy, and power. Because the past doesn't just whisper, it echoes.